Chapter 6, Dreams and Daydreams. Daydreams as future feelings? I don't want to confuse you by jumping too far forward. I will say that we can describe mental illness in terms of pathology processes, dreams and automatic everything. I think dreams and fantasies are essential to our very essence and well-being. I now have the unenviable task of trying to explain something that I have been thinking about and playing with for over 50 years. As hard as I struggle to explain this, if there is a semblance of coherence, it is thanks to my editor extraordinaire. Here we go. We have to organize our experiences into digestible and easy ways of retrieval. The retrieved experience will eventually be the coloring used by our automatic scanning or thinking, and automatic feelings. You remember that we used this coloring. We attached it to the scanning part of our automatic thinking. It helps us know what's going on around us. In doing so, we are not freeing our intellect to learn new things and progress. You will see the importance of this when I discuss how our thinking develops. The process is important. It differentiates us from the rest of animals and may account for our ability to develop as we have. Those of us who own pets, especially dogs, know that they dream too. However, dogs can learn from the experiences, but not to such an extent that they have freed their intellect so that they can learn whilst not getting killed in the process. We have managed, well, most of us have. Dreams, in my opinion, are simply a way of storing both emotional and cognitive content, which was our experience. It integrates our experience as an emotional and cognitive dyad with previous dyads. You never have an emotionless dream. The emotion in a dream is pretty clear. The amazing thing is that the cognitive counterpart is often far from clear. Here we see that the rules of the emotion, with regard to ordering sequences in time and space, take precedence over the cognitive ones, even though the dreams will have cognitive significance. We are not talking about storing memory. We are talking about storing experience. One of the amazing things that I am finding in my aging experience is that my memory is certainly not getting better. I don't subscribe to the old socially acceptable concepts that, as you get older, your memory gets worse. Mine didn't. It never was any good. I always was scatterbrained, but I could always remember what I needed to remember and still can. Experience, on the other hand, seems to grow exponentially. I think it's a good thing, but then I am a bit biased. The downside is I get long-winded and even more self-opinionated, hence the book. I can imagine David's look and the wry grin. Back to the subject at hand. The dream is simply a well-organized storehouse. Sleep allows us to select and process the day's experiences and to integrate them into previous experiences in such a way that the cognitive emotional experience can be readily at the call of our automatic scanning and thinking. Let's put it another way. Dreams are the flimsy present's way of reaching into the past. I guess at this point, David would ask, why flimsy? The present is flimsy, as it is like an ephemeral screen with two projections on it. The first is what we believe we are experiencing, as presented by the automatic everything, and the other projects the appropriate experiences from our past. As one frame flicks by into the past, our flimsy present moves on accordingly, frame by frame. But we are not spectators in a complex film. We are actors, directors, script writers, stars, audience, archivists and critics in our own drama. We are drawing from experiences, and the process is done by using the representation of experience stored in our non-aware conscious. Sleep is the way we process the present information that we gain today and push it into the past as an integrated part of our experience. Note that I have said integrated, and integrated is indeed the key word. You will see when we are discussing illnesses, how important integration can be. From my point of view, imagination, fantasies and daydreams are interchangeable. They are the ability to go into the future without committing ourselves to act. For a long time, we have had difficulty in discerning whether fantasies and imagination are acceptable safety valves or the beginnings of some artistic endeavor. It is my opinion that they are both and neither. I believe there is a continual non-aware process which occurs all the time. Let me refer back to something I mentioned before about the survival of the fittest thoughts. I firmly believe we also have survival of the fittest with regards to fantasies. It is called choice. The fantasy is similar to the dream, in that it is not bound in time or even boundaries, as is a thought. It does have certain progression and logic, and in this respect, it is different from dream or an emotion. Invariably, the fantasy is a result of the events going on around us. We react to the event by going forward. We do something. If our automatic thinking, colored by our automatic feelings, discerns this to be a dangerous situation, we act reflexively. The fantasy is an aware reaction to what is going on around us. The non-aware automatic process offers alternative actions for the need to change course. The fantasy, daydream, has to have one provision to work. It must have a firewall so that it is clear that reality testing is still alive and well. If there is no firewall, we are in serious trouble. Can you guess why? Let us suppose that the coloring to an automatic thought is positive. We are not putting on the brakes. We decide in which direction we will change the steering wheel and how hard we will put our foot on the accelerator. Remember, I did say that avoiding trouble is much more efficient and powerful than moving forward. The brakes are the most powerful component of any car, or at least it should be. The same should be said about us as people. We have choices. Before taking the choice, we decide which is better. Often, this is done automatically, as we are unaware of the competing fantasies. Ask someone, "Why did you decide to do this?" And they will tell you what the alternatives were in their choice, which is often done without being aware, was best. In other words, the fantasies are there, covered up and away from our awareness, but not in our subconscious. Part of the firewall is expectations and beliefs. Before homosexuality was acceptable, latent homosexuals would banish any fantasy by using what we call repression. There are many examples of repression. All repression has a cost. So, we see that part of our automatic thinking is to offer a plan of action. To all intents and purposes, the possibilities are fantasies. If they are hidden behind a firewall, they become daydreams or almost daydreams. Again, I can picture an arched eyebrow and a muttered, "Almost daydream?" We censor, and sometimes we censor viciously. If something is painful, be it trauma from the past or fear of an unacceptable future, the censor steps in. We can forget, we can obliterate a memory. An almost daydream is one that is there, but not allowed into the conscious. All that emerges is the accompanying emotion. A good example would be unacceptable sexuality or sexual trauma. Problems start, as we will discuss in pathology, when people feel there are no alternatives. If you remember, we talked about this when we talked about the learning process and how we are dealing with probabilities. When a person reaches the point where he abolishes probability and is in the realms of certainty, I can promise you that nothing but trouble will occur. How often do suicidal patients tell me, "I had no option"? They did, but they could not see it. Imagination, fantasies and daydreams are merely expressions of our ability or desire to allow our imagination to become part of our conscience. In other words, it is merely a factor of how aware we are of allowing a process which is normally automatic. Yes, I am claiming that most of us are much more capable of being creative than we would ever care to believe. I have no good reason or explanation as to why this is so. There is little doubt in my mind that we all imagine and we all have fantasies and daydreams. From there to a plan and action, as we discussed in behavior, is simply an expression of expectations and beliefs about ourselves. At this point, I have started to wander into the realms of therapy, so I think this is a pretty good time to make a summary. Before doing so, I want you to take note that I thought all people have fantasies and daydreams. Can you guess why I changed my mind? The answer comes in the pathology section. Dreams and daydreams are similar in some respects and different in others. They have one common aspect: they are the link between the past and the future. Dreams and daydreams have different roles, inasmuch as the dreams, or the materials from the dreams, are used all the time. Because of them, our awareness is free to develop ideas. The end point of dreams is the coloring of automatic thoughts. We are in a safe environment. The dreams and admixture of cognitive and emotional experiences color our automatic thinking. In a similar manner, daydreams are mostly in the non-aware state. Dreams are usually in our subconscious state. In other words, we can become aware of our fantasies and daydreams. This is not so with our dreams. Why the difference? Because we do not use the cognitive nature of dreams. Dreams are stored in the language of feelings. In our aware/non-aware automatic everything world, The lingua franca is the orderly rule that the cognitive, thinking, process obeys. This is not so with dreams. We use dreams as the colors of our automatic thinking. But fantasy is the seed from which plans can emerge. We need to siphon them on demand into our awareness. Man has done more than exist, he has evolved. He has found a way of distinguishing what may threaten him by drawing from his experiences. His ability to draw from the emotional, cognitive storehouse of previous experiences to quickly avoid threats by coloring his automatic thinking. Similarly, he has learned how to add and integrate into these experiences. By being able to designate and delineate emotions, he is able to pick up positive, non-threatening events and make alternative plans. In our desire to achieve certain emotional goals, we can make alternative plans and choose the better one, and all this is done without having been truly aware, because most of the time, we do not need to be aware. Mankind is basically in search of two things: cognitively not having to think and plan anymore, which for some of us is almost impossible. Yes, we really do simply wish to sit back and enjoy. I will be dealing with this in therapy. On the other hand, certain emotions, such as procreation or sex in the widest sense and doing good, have an intrinsic basic value which we find to be highly desirable. Many of you will be offended that I have not included other pleasant activities. They are all, in my opinion, tied in with competition, courtship, and family raising, and about them, we fantasize and daydream, or we fantasize and daydream about forbidden acts. In this case, forbidden, like beauty, is in the eye of the beholder. I hope I have managed to describe the basic blocks which we will be using throughout the book. Don't worry if you have not grasped completely what I am saying. I will be reiterating the ideas, embellish, and explain them in a different way when I talk about development.